Listen to me closely. The quality of your life is not decided by luck. It is not decided by your past. It is not decided by who believed in you or who didn't. The quality of your life is decided by one thing, and one thing only. Your standards, not your hopes, not your wishes, your standards. Because at the end of the day, you don't get what you want in life. You get what you tolerate. Most people don't realize this, but your life is not shaped by the things that happen to you. It's shaped by the things you allow to continue. Every time you let something slide, every time you say, it's fine, when it's not, every time you stay silent when you should speak, you are teaching the world how to treat you. You are casting votes for the life you are living right now. That exhaustion you feel, that frustration, that quiet resentment, it's not coming from effort, it's coming from tolerance. You tolerated being underestimated. You tolerated showing up halfway. You tolerated environments that drained you instead of challenged you. And now you're wondering why life feels heavy. Life isn't heavy. Your standards are low, and low standards always cost you more in the long run. What you tolerate does not stay small. It grows, it spreads, it multiplies. A little disrespect becomes routine disrespect. A small excuse becomes a lifestyle. A moment of laziness becomes an identity. The problem is that you failed once. The problem is that you decided it was acceptable. And once something becomes acceptable, it becomes permanent unless you interrupt it. People think transformation comes from massive action, but it starts with a firm refusal. A refusal to live beneath your potential. A refusal to keep explaining why things are the way they are. A refusal to keep surviving when you are buoy. LT to lead, to build, to rise. Until you say no more, life will keep saying this is it. Let's get honest. You already know what you're tolerating. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it in the pit of your stomach when you avoid a hard conversation. You feel it when you scroll instead of work, when you settle instead of stretch, when you stay because it's comfortable even though it's killing your growth. That feeling isn't confusion, it's clarity. It's your higher self calling you out. And every time you ignore it, you silence a part of yourself that was designed to push you forward. That's why people feel disconnected, unmotivated, lost. It's not because they don't know what to do, it's because they keep tolerating what they already know they should leave behind. The world does not reward potential. It rewards standards enforced daily. You don't get credit for what you could be. You get results from what you consistently demand of yourself. If you allow weak mornings, distracted days, and empty promises to yourself, that becomes your normal. And once something becomes normal, it stops bothering you, even if it's destroying you. That's the danger. Comfort in dysfunction. Familiarity with mediocrity. You start defending what's holding you back because it's familiar. But understand this. The life you want is on the other side of discomfort. And discomfort begins the moment you stop tolerating less than your best. You cannot build a powerful future while negotiating with weak habits. You cannot demand greatness from life while excusing laziness from yourself. The standard you set privately becomes the life you live publicly. Every private decision is a vote. Every moment you push when it would be easier to quit, you raise the standard. Every moment you choose discipline over convenience, you change your trajectory. But every time you tolerate weakness, life takes note. It responds accordingly. Life doesn't argue, it complies. If you accept average, life gives rage. If you accept chaos, life delivers chaos. If you accept excellence, life rises to meet you. This is where everything shifts, when you stop asking for permission to expect more, when you stop explaining your boundaries, when you stop apologizing for wanting better. You don't need motivation. You need non-negotiables. You need lines you will not cross, standards you will not lower, behaviors will no longer entertain from yourself or anyone else. The moment you decide that certain things are no longer allowed in your life, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your life has no choice but to follow. What you tolerate today becomes the story you live tomorrow. Raise your standards, draw the line, and let your live. Finally reflect the strength that's already inside you. People love to talk. They talk about discipline, success, purpose, and greatness. They talk about what they're going to do, who they're becoming, and how different life will be soon. But life doesn't listen to talk. Life listens to behavior. Your standards are not proven by what you say out loud when you feel inspired. They are revealed by what you do when no one is clapping for you, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when quitting would be easier. That's where truth lives. That's where real standards show themselves. Because words are cheap, but behavior costs something. It costs effort. It costs consistency. It costs sacrifice. And if your behavior doesn't back your words, then your standards aren't high, they're imaginary. Most people don't fail because they lack ambition. They fail because they live one way in public and another way in private. They speak confidence but practice hesitation. They speak discipline but practice convenience. They speak excellence but practice shortcuts. That disconnect creates self-doubt, not because they're incapable, but because deep down they know they're not honoring their own word. And every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken trust with yourself. Over time, that self-betrayal becomes normal. You stop believing in your own potential because your actions have trained you not to. High standards demand integrity, the kind where what you do when it's inconvenient matches what you claim when it's easy. Real standards show up in the smallest decisions, not the dramatic moments. They show up in how you start your day, not how you finish your speeches. They show up in preparation, not performance, in repetition, not recognition. Anyone can look disciplined when everything is going right. But standards are tested when life pushes back, when progress is slow, when results don't show up on schedule, when effort feels invisible. That's where most people lower the bar and tell themselves a story to feel better. But people with real standards don't negotiate with discomfort. They move through it. They understand that consistency beats intensity every time. You don't rise in life because of your best days. You rise because of your worst ones handled with discipline. The days when motivation disappears, the days when doubt is loud, the days when nobody would care. Now if you quit. Those are the moments that shape identity. Every time you show up anyway, you reinforce who you are. Every time you don't, you reinforce who you're not. And over time, those decisions compound. You don't wake up one day confident or successful. You earn it through aligned behavior. Standards are built, not declared. And they are built one decision at a time. The uncomfortable trot. H is this. Your results are an exact reflection of your daily standards. Not your intentions, not your goals, your standards. If your output is inconsistent, your standards are inconsistent. If your progress is slow, your standards are flexible. Life does not reward potential, it rewards execution. You don't get credit for how serious you feel about success. You get paid for what you do consistently, when no one is forcing you. And once you accept that responsibility, everything changes. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop hoping things will click. You become the standard. This is where power returns to you. When you stop asking, "How do I feel today?" and start asking, "What does my standard require?" Feelings are temporary, standards are permanent. Feelings come and go, standards guide action regardless. When you live by standards instead of emotions, your life stabilizes, your confidence grows, your results follow. You become reliable to yourself first. And once you can rely on yourself, life opens doors that used to stay closed. Opportunities trust discipline. Success respects consistency. Your standards are not what you say you believe. They are what you practice daily. Align your behavior, honor your word, and watch your life rise to meet the level you've been claiming all along. Most people want a bigger life without becoming a bigger person. They want the results without the responsibility, the reward without the refinement, the elevation without the discipline. They dream loudly but live quietly, and then they wonder why frustration follows them everywhere they go. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If your standards don't match your dreams will turn into disappointment. Dreams are not magic, they are instructions. They are invitations to evolve. And when you refuse to evolve, your dreams don't disappear. They become reminders of who you're not yet willing to be. There is a dangerous comfort dreaming big while living small. It allows you to feel ambitious without being accountable. You get to talk about the future without confronting the present. But life doesn't reward intention, it responds to alignment. You cannot ask life for excellence while offering it mediocrity. That's not how growth works. Every dream carries a cost, and that cost is paid daily through higher standards. If we're not willing to raise the way you think, the way you prepare, the way you execute, then the dream you keep repeating is not a vision, it's a fantasy. Big dreams demand structure. They demand discipline. They demand a version of you that doesn't exist yet. That's why most people abandon them, not because the dream is too big, but because the standards required feel too uncomfortable. It's easy to lower the dream than to raise the daily effort. It's easier to tell yourself maybe later than to face the reality that growth requires sacrifice now. But every time you lower your dream to match your current habits, you shrink your future. You trade possibility for familiarity, and familiarity is the enemy of progress. You don't get to keep the dream if you refuse the work. That's the contract. Success is not cruel, but it is honest. It asks, who are you becoming to deserve what you're asking for? If the answer doesn't match, life applies pressure. That pressure shows up as delay, resistance, or repeated failure, not to punish you, but to reveal the gap between who you are and who you must become. You can ignore that gap or you can close it, but pretending it doesn't exist only deepens the frustration. Raising your standards is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about deciding that your habits will no longer insult your goals. It's about understanding that comfort is expensive and discipline is an investment. When you raise your standards, you stop negotiating with laziness. You stop excusing inconsistency. You stop romanticizing potential. You Become practical, focused, and honest. And honesty is where transformation begins. Because once you admit that your standards need to rise, you regain control over your future. There comes a moment when you must choose, protect the dream or protect your comfort. You cannot do both. Comfort will keep you exactly where you are. Higher standards will take you where you say you want to go. The decision N is not dramatic, it's daily. It shows up in how early you wake up, how seriously you prepare, how relentlessly you follow through. And when your standards finally meet your dreams, frustration turns into momentum, doubt turns into confidence, and effort starts to feel purposeful. Raise your standards or lower your dreams. But understand this, the life you want will only respond to the version of you willing to meet its demands. Choose growth and let your standards lead you forward. Most people misunderstand self-respect. They think it's about attitude, posture, or how loudly you speak. They think it's confidence on display. But real self-respect is quiet. It's internal. It shows up long before anyone else sees it. It's how you treat your time when no one is watching. It's how you speak to yourself when you fail. It's how you respond when something or someone tries to cross a line you know should not be crossed. Self-respect is the foundation beneath everything you want to build. Without it, success feels empty, relationships feel draining, and confidence feels fragile. With it, even difficult seasons feel purposeful. When you lack self-respect, you start negotiating with things that should never be up for discussion. You stay in situations that shrink you. You accept treatment you would never give to someone you love. You say yes when your spirit is screaming no, and each time you do, something inside you erodes. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly. You begin to question your worth, not because it's gone, but because you keep acting as if it is. That's why low standards are so dangerous. They don't just limit your results, they damage your relationship with yourself. Self-respect shows itself through boundaries, and boundaries require courage. It takes courage to walk away from what feels familiar, courage to disappoint people who benefited from your lack of limits, courage to choose long-term peace over short-term approval. Many people avoid boundaries because they fear being misunderstood or rejected. But what they don't realize is that every boundary you fail to set becomes a burden you carry. High standards are not walls, they are filters. They don't keep good things out, they keep misalignment from staying too long. When you respect yourself, your behavior changes automatically. You prepare because you value your word. You show up on time because you respect people and yourself. You follow through because quitting would violate your identity. You don't need external pressure to do the right thing. You feel internal discomfort when you don't. That discomfort is not weakness, it's integrity. It's the inner signal that reminds you who you are and who you're committed to becoming. Self-respect turns discipline into self-care instead of punishment. Your standards in relationships are a direct reflection of your self-respect. You teach people how to treat you not through what you say, but through what you allow. When you stop tolerating disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional chaos, the dynamic changes. Some people rise to meet the new standard. Others fall away. Both outcomes are necessary. You cannot carry people into rooms they are unwilling to grow into. Respecting yourself sometimes means accepting distance, not as loss but as alignment. The strongest version of you is not loud or aggressive. It is grounded. It knows what it stands for. It knows what it will not accept. And it doesn't need validation to stay consistent. When you build your life on self-respect, confidence becomes stable. Decisions become clearer. Regret loses it. Power. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. And in that space, your standards stop feeling forced. They feel natural. Self-respect is the root of every high standard you hold. Protect it, strengthen it, and live in a way that honors it daily. Because once you truly respect yourself, your life will never settle for less again. There comes a moment in every life when thinking must end and deciding must begin. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, not when confidence magically appears, right now. Because clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from choosing. Most people stay stuck not because they don't know what to do, but because they keep postponing the moment of commitment. They live in preparation mode, planning mode, motivation mode, but never in decision mode. And as long as life remains undecided, it remains unchanged. Progress begins the instant you choose who you are and what you stand for, without needing permission or approval. Indecision is comfortable because it feels safe. If you don't fully commit, you don't fully risk failure. But what feels like safety is actually stagnation. Every day you hesitate, you pay a price in momentum, confidence, and self-trust. You start doubting your ability to follow through, not because you can't, but because you haven't. Decision creates identity. When you decide, your mind organizes itself around that choice. Your energy aligns. Your actions become sharper. Life responds to decision with opportunity, but it ignores hesitation. The world does not move for people who are unsure of what they want from themselves. Real decision is not emotional, it's definitive. It's not about feeling ready, it's about being resolved. You don't wait for courage to act. You act until courage catches up. When you decide, excuses lose oxygen, old habits lose power, the internal debate ends. There is no more should I or maybe later, there is only execution. Decision simplifies life. It removes noise. It turns complexity into clarity. Because once the standard is set, behavior follows. You stop negotiating with yourself, and that alone frees enormous mental energy. The most important decisions are not public, they are personal. No announcement, no applause. Just a quiet, unshakable commitment to live differently, to wake up earlier, to speak more honestly, to walk away faster, to prepare deeper. These are key decisions that reshape your life because they reshape your identity. You don't rise because you feel inspired. You rise because you decided that the old version of you is no longer acceptable. And once a version of you becomes unacceptable, it loses its grip. Decision also requires letting go. You cannot decide to move forward while holding on to every old pattern, excuse, and attachment. Growth demands sacrifice, not because life is cruel, but because capacity is limited. You must make room for who you're becoming. That means releasing habits that once comforted you but now confine you. It means stepping into discomfort without overanalyzing it. Decision is not the absence of fear, it is movement in spite of it. And every step taken reinforces the decision that started it. Momentum is built through decided action, not perfect action. You will not get everything right. You will misstep, you will adjust. But movement creates feedback, and feedback creates mastery. The biggest mistake is waiting to feel certain before you move. Certainty is earned through repetition, not thought. When you decide and act, even imperfectly, your confidence grows. Your identity strengthens. And life begins to reflect the seriousness of your commitment. Opportunities appear not because you deserve them, but because you're ready to handle them. This is the line in the sand. The moment you stop explaining and start embodying. The moment standards stop being ideas and become law in your life. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You need a decision that is so clear it leaves no room for retreat. Decide how you will live. Decide what you will no longer accept. Decide the standard that governs your actions from this point forward. Decide now, not emotionally, but intentionally. Because once you decide, your standards take control, and your life finally moves in the direction you were born to go.